Sometime later in this century, the university will celebrate its 1000th birthday. A millennia after the invention of college, institutions of higher education are facing critical challenges. The cost of education is spiraling out of control while students become increasingly disengaged from learning. It is becoming clear that the edifice of higher education is beginning to show its age and needs to be completely redesigned for the information age. University 2.0 needs to be established. The first modern university was established in Italy in the late 11th century. Other universities soon followed, in Oxford, then Paris, then rapidly throughout the rest of Europe. This woodcut from the 14th century shows a university classroom in a medieval university. At the front of the room, behind a podium, the instructor reads from a textbook, sitting in a position of authority. Students in the first row copy their notes by hand. In the back, students are sleeping, talking, and doing the crossword puzzle. Before the invention of the printing press in the 15th century, this model for passing on the knowledge stored in books made great sense. The cost of one book was about that of a farm. However, as this collection of images shows, and any student knows, neither the passage of centuries nor the incredible advances in man's ability to copy, store, and transmit information has changed how professors teach and how students learn. Does a model of education based on copying books by hand work in a world of free, instantaneous access to information? Many think not. But, as yet, no consensus on what to replace the current model of education with exists. This video explores one alternative.
I'm a college professor. Like most people, I am good at some parts of my job and not so good at others. Soon after I started teaching college, I realized that my students weren't learning very well. I first thought the blame lay with me, but I always got pretty good teaching evaluations compared to other faculty in the department. I then went through a brief period of blaming the students in the high schools, but unless I was willing to take on the entire education system and our culture, this was an exercise in futility and despair. So eventually I came to understand it wasn't my own teaching or the students' lack of skills, but that teaching the way I and countless generations of students before me were taught didn't make sense in the information age. I, like many other faculty, struggle to understand the changes the internet has brought, changes that are slowly eroding the foundation of higher education. But, like Pandora's box, there is hope.
Over the last several decades, there's been a quiet revolution in our understanding of how people learn, and thus, how we teach. While there is still a lot to discover, several things are well known. Matching how you teach with what you want students to learn can drastically improve learning. One of the grand challenges in education is to advance personalized learning, allowing lessons that address individual needs and styles, breaking away from the historic lecture model. Although our understanding of intelligence and learning is still in its early stages, advances in neurosciences and psychology are driving a renaissance in education. A broader definition of knowing and knowledge is slowly developing. Team-based approaches to learning, which let students work with each other in peer groups, are highly effective. Contextualizing learning around relevant or important problems improves learning outcomes. And most importantly, actively engaging students in their own development produces better results than methods in which students are passive learners.
The problem is that college was not designed to support these methods. It was designed for a time when students copied their books by hand. And with few exceptions, nobody seems to be seriously exploring what's going to replace college, likely by the end of this century. But does college really need to change? Isn't college about self-exploration and personal development as much as it is about book learning? Of course, college is a big step in developing our identity, independence, exploring the world, and learning to manage our time and discover our passions. All of these are vital to the college experience. But despite the increasing emphasis being placed by society on college preparing students for careers, universities do a rather poor job of developing students' passion for a discipline or students' professional identities. While we faculty lament that today's students are not like us, the truth is the world has changed beneath our feet. What made sense in a time when information was a valuable commodity no longer works in a wired world. To adapt to this new world, to find a blueprint for tomorrow's university, we need look no further than games.
Games have become part of American culture. The Pew Foundation has supported research into electronic gaming, and the results show that perhaps more than any other aspect of our society, we are tied together by games. Most adult Americans play games, women almost as much as men. Not surprisingly, the younger you are, the more likely it is that you play games. And games cut across racial, economic, and other strata of our society. For teens, games are ubiquitous, and most teens enjoy a broad range of games. Clearly, games provide an indefinable something that many people don't find in the modern world. Given the popularity and impact of games, particularly for college-age students, there has been a considerable effort made to make educational games. While this is a great idea with a lot of potential, using games in a traditional college program is not going to address the real problem of the structure that is fundamentally flawed for the information age. If the 1,000-year-old model of college is to change, maybe it is time to build a college program around the aspects of games that make them so successful. Now we are in a mythical but virtually real place called Azeroth that is home for the popular computer role-playing game World of Warcraft, or WoW. This is one of my characters in World of Warcraft. For me, it's an easy world to exist in since WoW draws deeply from the tradition of role-playing games, a tradition that has deep and fundamental lessons for how to change how we educate students. But before we make the case that college has a lot to learn from games, let's put this one game in perspective. A lot of people play World of Warcraft. For those who don't, the popularity of the game is mind-boggling. At the time this video was made, there were over 6 million active players in this one game. The population of active players ranks as the 35th largest city in the world. The virtual area of Azeroth is 2 or 3 times the size of Washington, D.C., about 150 square miles. I teach engineering in college, and there are 15 times more people playing this one game than all of the engineering students in the United States. Why is the game so engaging, and what can college learn from role-playing games?